Hello, fellow mortals. Don't forget to subscribe to Patreon where you can visually see the podcast in living color. And as always, thank you for supporting me. Hi, and welcome to episode 2 of Lauren the Mortician's podcast. I'm here again with my sister, Caitlyn.
Hello.
You guys liked her on the first podcast so much I had to bring her back for the second one. That and she didn't have a choice. And today I thought we could talk about, since it's October and spooky month, one of the most commonly asked questions I get is for spooky stories. Mm-hmm. So I thought we could do, I know Caitlyn has some stories to share. Hers are wild. Hers are like buckle up. They're going to give you chills. And then I've got one to share. And then I had again asked for some more questions that you guys are dying to know. So I thought we could go through that together. So let's go. I want to start right away with your ghost story. Like, we're just going to jump right into it.
Okay. The really creepy one?
Do they go into each other? Are they connected?
No.
Okay. Then do the one that's not so scary. And then let's do the scary one second.
Okay. So the first house I purchased it from an older man. And him and his wife had lived there essentially their whole lives. His wife did pass in the house. She was on, I don't know if it was technically hospice or, they had a hospital bed in there.
Oh, then probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she had passed in the house. And my fiance, when him and I first started dating, he would come over and he would stay at my house. And we would notice sounds and different things like that. Sometimes I would hear footsteps. Sometimes you could just feel a presence.
For those that don't know, describe what it feels like to feel a presence.
You just know something is there, but you can't see it.
For me, it almost feels like a heavy feeling.
I would describe it as a heavy feeling in the chest.
When you're alone, you feel alone. And when you're not alone, when you're very much not alone, like I feel you guys like here with me now.
Right.
And yeah, so I just wanted, like, you're not alone.
Yes. And you can feel it and you'll be looking around kind of being like, is somebody here? And then you don't see anything. But anyhow, at the time, my fiance would come to my house, and anytime he would come to the house, he would be drained. Like, he would be exhausted, and it didn't really make sense why, because anytime we stayed where he lived, he would still sleep and be tired, but not to the same extent of exhaustion that he experienced when he was at my house. Anyhow, the guy that I purchased the house from, his name was Jack, and my fiance's name is Jack. And I went and saw a psychic medium, and it turns out that the wife spirit was still in the house. She was tied to something within the house. I'm not 100% sure what, because we had got rid of almost everything.
Maybe it was just the house.
Yeah, I think it was just the house. But anyhow, I saw a psychic medium, and she said that her name was Terry. She said Terry views Jack as her Jack.
Oh.
She is draining him of all energy, of everything. So I saged the house. You have to open a window when you sage because you need to let the spirit out.
Okay.
It needs somewhere to escape.
Did that help?
Yes, but it took a couple times. So
did you do every room? Did you start in one end of the house and then go to the other one to make sure the window was open before you started?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you go to every room, and what I didn't realize the first time you sage is it's supposed to be done in a peaceful setting.
A peaceful setting? What were you doing that it was not peaceful?
I had music blaring and I was dancing.
Oh, were you nervous?
No.
Then why were you dancing?
Oh, I just had good-ass beats on.
That's random.
And I have a video of me in front of a mirror downstairs saging, and I'm just whipping the sage back and forth, and I'm like circling it.
Okay, normally, so the only times I've ever had to sage, I'm like nervous. So I blare music so I don't hear something I don't want to, especially at the funeral home.
No, anytime you feel a presence, you don't want to fear it, because if it is a negative entity, it's going to feed off of that worry.
Okay.
If you don't give it worry to feed on, it's not going to get stronger, and it's not going to do things that could potentially scare you because they feed off that.
So it didn't work the first time because you were having a party and shaking your booty.
I was grooving.
Okay. So then how did you know it didn't work? He still came over and was still tired?
Well, I was home alone, and that's when I made my custom cups, my custom epoxy cups. And it was during Christmas time, and I had my Christmas tree plugged in. And I just walked out of my craft room, went and grabbed something from the kitchen, went back into the craft room, finished what I was doing, walked out. My Christmas tree was unplugged. And it was just me home. And I was like, okay, Terry, we're getting stronger.
Okay.
Because that has to be a very strong force to be able to unplug something like that.
Yeah.
And one thing that was kind of wild is while I was walking, in and out between my craft room and my living room where my Christmas tree was, I had literally taken a Snapchat of my tree before I walked into the craft room, and it's all lit up because I thought it looked so cute.
And you had no pets at this point, I think is very important to point out. There was no pet
pets.
or cat or dog that would pull it out.
I didn't have any roommates, no nothing. It was pulled out. And so
that gives me chills knowing that it was. Did you just stand there and like stare at it like, I didn't unplug you? I seriously was like, are you kidding me? So you knew it was Terry.
Yes. And you could hear footsteps, like someone walking down the hallway or up the steps. And so I saged again, opened a window, did the same thing over and over again. And I think it was by the third or fourth time, because even Mom would come over, because that's when Mom worked at the school, literally right down the road. Mom would come over for lunch and I'd be at work. And it got to the point where Mom came into the house and she was like, Terry, you need to leave. Because I had saged for like a fourth time and tried to get rid of any extra stuff that might have been left in the house that she was tied to. And then I hit a point, after Mom told me she said that, I hit a point where I was kind of like, okay, it's time to go. It's okay to fully cross now, go. And I just told her the same thing. I said, because I was sick of it. I was like, Terry, it's time to go. And then I think I saged a final time. And then she officially left. Yeah. And there was other stuff that happened, but I can't think of it right now. But that's...
Have you ever felt like there's like a spirit that's following you by chance?
Following me.
Because while you were telling that story, there was a noise that just happened in the house that I have not heard. And the guy that's helping me film this podcast, he just looked at me and I looked at him. Did you hear that?
I heard something.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Okay, because I have a spirit in my house right now that I cannot get rid of.
Okay. In your house now?
Yes. I cannot get rid of it. I have even Jack, my fiance, he's pretty skeptical about the whole spirit thing. I mean, he believes it, but he's hit a point where he'll be like, Caitlyn, I woke up last night and I swear to God there was something in our room just standing there. And you can't see it.
Hell no.
But you can feel it. You can feel it. And it's not evil. You can tell when one is evil and when it's not. Like you can tell when it's a dark entity versus it's a spirit that just doesn't want to fully cross yet. The one in our house right now, it makes itself known by at night we leave our front light on, and where our bedroom is, you can see like the light come through the door a little bit. I'll always see shadows.
Oh my gosh, that would scare me. No.
Okay, now if it happens at nighttime, like, and I wake up out of a dead sleep, that scares me. If it happens during the day, I'm like, okay. But 2 weeks ago, it talked to me for the first time, and I almost shit my pants.
You didn't tell me this.
No, I didn't.
What did it say?
I couldn't make it out.
Oh, it wasn't trying to ask you about your car's extended warranty?
No, it was not. It wasn't trying to ask me if I needed solar panels either.
I'm sorry. In Florida, that's a thing. You get door-to-door salesmen for solar panels.
Just about everything.
I had to add the light to the situation. So you couldn't make it out? Where were you and like what, how?
So I was walking out. It's like 11 o'clock at night. Jack was in bed. We were both up. We had just finished a show. And I walked out to the garage to grab our fan because we had it out there for something. And I have it dark in the hallway. So I unlock the garage door, and right before I step my foot down to get into the garage, something in my ear says something. And I I really almost shit my pants.
Oh my God.
I jumped into the garage and turned around thinking it was Jack.
That he was in your ear saying something to you.
I thought Jack was trying to scare me because it's dark and I'm going outside. I turn around, nobody's there. I'm like, oh. So my heart's racing and it hadn't spoke to me before. And I couldn't make out what it was. And I got back in the room and I didn't want to tell Jack because I didn't want to scare him. I'm like, I'll deal with this alone. And I don't think I told him until the next day or maybe 2 days later. And I was like, I got to tell him.
I can't keep that shit in. I'm like immediately like, I'm like, Alex, guess what happened?
Yeah.
Guess what happened? Like freaking out. Like,
yes. Even our mom is really in tune with different spirits and stuff too. And she said before, you ever feel anything in your house? Like, yeah.
That's like my mom's code for she's felt something, but just wants to feel you out if you felt something.
Right. Am I crazy or not?
Oh, just wanted to check,
Yeah. So I just saged. I saged after that happened because that time it did scare me. Typically, if I hear noises and stuff, I'm like, okay, I know you're there. I saged and I thought it was better. And this time I opened numerous windows. I had a window open in our bedroom, the kitchen. I had the screen door open to go, our big doors in the house.
Yeah, in your house.
Bathrooms. And
her house is newly renovated too, so
and so I thought it got better, but then a couple days later, Jack and I were in bed and you'll just hear noises. But one thing that's really been driving me nuts lately, I cannot sleep through the night. I always wake up and I know it's because of whatever spirit is in the house because I wake up and I'm looking around and you can feel it, but you can't see it. I need a shirt that says that.
So we've been in this house for a little while now, and I've only really had one experience here that I cannot explain. I don't know if I told you this or not.
I don't think so.
I always say the other night, but really it wasn't the other night. It was like the other month, which was really like last year. I went to sleep in my bed and I woke up because I thought I saw a light at the end of my bed. And I opened my eyes, I sat up, and I thought that my oldest son was walking into our bedroom.
Yes. Because
I thought he needed me, which never happens, by the way. He's autistic. He would rather play alone, like in his room. He very independent player. And normally he's not one to wake up in the middle of the night and come in and need me. So my heart was already like, oh my gosh, he needs me. He needs me. And he walked up to me, held out his arms. I held out my arms to bring him into the bed with me. And as I did that, he went right through me.
That is so wild. I have goosebumps.
He went right through me. And when I think back on it, I just sat there.
like what the heck just happened?
Really, it was what the fuck just happened. It was like my brain could not process. And I sat there trying to rationalize what I just saw, maybe telling myself I was dreaming. But I'm sitting there. There is no way. I was awake and watching what I thought was my child. Right. But then when I laid back down to go to sleep and I'm laying there staring at the ceiling like, what just happened? Yeah. It looked like his face was lit up, almost like as if he had a cell phone and the light was like lighting, his face was glowing. When he passed through me, then the light went away. And I've told that story on TikTok before, and sometimes people are like, oh, that's really unique. Or else sometimes they'll say, which I don't even know if this is a thing, if somebody can comment and like tell me if this is a thing. They're like, well, maybe it was your son and maybe he was astral projecting from his room into your room. Oh. I've never heard of that before. I didn't know that was a thing. But when I'm looking back, I really can't tell you what this face looked like that I thought was my son. I mean, in my state of mind, I just, opened my arms thinking it was my son. But now thinking back, I don't really know.
That is so, and I haven't had an experience like that where I might catch the tail end of a shadow, but never the point like that where it is a spirit that is so present and showing that it walks right to you.
Yeah. And I invited it. I was like, oh, come here. Let me love you.
Right.
And And I have a lot of like dreams. Have you ever dreamed like something that happens before it happens?
Yes.
You have too?
Yes.
Okay. What's one that you had? Is it a good one?
Not really.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
can't
it was
remember?
just, yeah, I mean, it's happened numerous times, but it was nothing significant to the point where I'd be like, oh my God, I literally just thought about that the other day. It's like little type things.
Because I know you remember when we were growing up, and I remember waking up like in a cold sweat, like knowing I sat up and I had a dream that our youngest sister, Lexi,
Oh, yes.
that the tractor tipped over on top of her. And I mean, and I was so disturbed by this dream that I had that I walked down the stairs to her bedroom and I said, please do not go to the farm today. Please. I mean, I was in tears really after that dream. I just went straight downstairs. She said, why? And I said, because I had a dream that the tractor tipped over on you and you didn't make it. And she goes, well, Lauren, I have to go to the farm today. And I was like begging her to not go to the farm. I just had this horrible feeling. So she did end up going to the farm that day. But when her boss asked her to get on the tractor to do the tractor chores, she declined and said, no, I'll stay in with the horses today. Guess what frickin' happened? The tractor tipped over that day. But the guy that was on the tractor was able to jump off because he was able to tell that the tractor was tipping versus Lexi was still a teenager, a young teenager at that, where she wouldn't have known. She admitted that if it was going to be going, she might have tried to stay with it. Like, creep me out.
That story always makes me emotional. Like I have tears in my eyes because I just think about that and obviously love her so much and would never want that to happen. But I remember hearing that story for the first time and I was like, what?
Yes.
Mine are never that significant.
I've actually had dreams about some of the people that I've cared for at the funeral home. Have I told you that?
I remember one in particular. Though.
Yeah. Yeah. We had this case at the funeral home, 2 individuals that died in a car accident. They were such nice kids, but they made a bad decision is what happened. Drunk driving, and it was very quick, very sudden. And I had a dream. So I had to help with the embalming. I helped with the dressing, the casketing, doing the makeup. I mean, I did everything, including the cremation for one of them, getting the open casket ready for the other. And I had a dream about one of them. And in my dream, I cannot tell you how vivid this dream was. I was in heaven, or I was in the clouds. I was in this really peaceful place. And I watched him walk towards me from it almost looked like it was a sunset. He was walking towards me from the sunset.
Yeah.
And he walked right up to me and he gave me this huge hug, And he said, thank you. And tell my mom that I'm sorry.
Oh, God, why did you have to say that?
Don't cry, because then I'll cry.
I'm trying not to.
And I felt so much love and so much peace. And I woke up, actually, before I woke up, I almost forgot this part. He gave me this big bear hug. And when I looked over to my left, the casket was there that he was supposed to be in.
Oh, wow.
And him and I were looking at that casket. And then he made eye contact with me and he thanked me for caring for him.
Oh my gosh.
And then the dream ended.
Wow.
And I woke up the next morning and I didn't know what to do with this. I'm like,
well, you told his mom, right?
I did tell his mom.
Oh.
Yeah. So his mom was she still is, very religious and very, they're Christian. And I told her the day of the funeral, which I was very nervous to tell her.
Right.
Which I was nervous, but I wasn't, because she was very spiritual. And I told her that I had a dream. I told her what happened and she cried. And we hugged each other. And it was just this moment. But it was so real. I can't tell you how.
It is real. If you read that book we talked about in the first episode, it talks about that. People who have passed, one of the ways they come to you in a way that they can communicate most clearly is through dreams.
Oh my gosh.
So if you have someone who's passed, someone you know in your situation, someone you were caring for, that is how they will come to you. Marcus has come to me in my dreams.
So we actually haven't talked about Marcus, at least not on the podcast. I have talked about him on TikTok quite a few times. But if you're new here, Marcus is our cousin. We went to high school with him. And I don't know if Caitlyn's really watched my TikToks talking about him before.
I think I've seen a few of them.
But so Marcus was my age and we were set to graduate, and he took his life before we graduated high school together. And that was definitely a moment for me. I don't know if we've really talked about this together, but that was a moment for me where I had never known loss like that before. I had never known. I still remember you calling me to tell me that he had taken his life, and just my knees like gave out. Like it didn't seem real when you told me he had killed himself. And I remember wanting to rush to their house, and I remember going to their house after he had done that act, and just everybody was fucking heartbroken. If you are watching this and you are feeling those types of thoughts, please know that life is not better without you. It will never be better without you. It still affects our family, like to this day. Like it is, I think about him so often. I think about his life and who he would have been if he would have had kids, if he would have been married. It's like, it's horrible.
It's so many what ifs.
Yes. And we'll always have those. Like life is crazy. We're still here and he's gone.
Right.
And when that happened to me, when I experienced that, and we went to the funeral, it was at not our family's funeral home. It was at a different funeral home. And I remember walking up to the casket, and he didn't look like himself at all.
No.
His hair looked nothing like how he did his hair. His eyes were sunken in. But he was also a donor. So knowing what I know now, I know the reason why his eyes were that way was because he had donated them. But it was tough not understanding and going to the funeral and seeing him in the casket. And it was life-changing, life-altering for me. I went to school to be a dentist. I was going for like pre-dental biology, and I fucking hated school. I dropped out of school. My mom got a phone call one night. Campus police were like, "Where's we don't know where your daughter is. We haven't seen her because I dropped."
That was traumatizing.
Sorry
for us family members. She was a rebel.
Sorry. Yeah, I dropped out. And I decided to pursue mortuary science shortly after that and become a funeral director.
But tell him the story at Marcus's funeral when you were sitting in the pew.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tap, tap. Or no, you got flicked.
Oh my gosh. Girl, I had actually forgotten about that. You're bringing up. So I've been through a lot of traumatic things since Marcus's funeral. And it's funny how when you go through traumatic things, your brain will just like shut off certain memories, especially when you just don't know how to process those feelings. So when I was when we were at his funeral, big Catholic church, and I still remember the priest getting up there and saying that, our family's Catholic, and I was so worried, Catholics will talk about if you take your life, you're going to go to hell. And this priest got up there and he had such a beautiful message about that not all Catholics believe that, and that he believes that we go to a beautiful place no matter how we die. And it was moving and it was beautiful. And I had just started crying again. And we were sitting in these pews at the church, and all of a sudden I felt this fucking flick, like it hit my shoulder, went up to my ear. Like it was, I don't even know if my hair moved. I would be surprised if it didn't. And I looked behind me to see who in the actual was sitting behind me. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I did not know who the person was behind me. And I actually realized that they didn't flick me. And if you knew Marcus was a trickster. He liked to do things to be funny.
Yes.
His personality, he would light up a room. I mean, he was so freaking funny. And I I still don't know quite what that was that flicked me or hit me or anything. But I did take that was him just like, don't be sad. Don't cry. I'm free now. And just wanting to make me laugh, even at his flippin' funeral.
Yes, but you could not cry after you were flicked. You had no more tears. You couldn't cry anymore.
No, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was going nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what happened at his funeral.
And just kind of a point to that, because of that belief within Catholic, I was so concerned that he didn't go to heaven.
Do you remember that sermon that the priest gave, though? It was so...
I don't.
Oh, I listened. I did.
I don't. But I remember being so afraid that he wasn't in heaven. And I would tell him every night, I was like, please just let me know you made it to heaven, but don't scare me. Don't come and sit on the end of my bed.
And if you knew Marcus, he would totally try to scare her.
Yes, he would. I was like, don't come sit on the end of my bed and scare me. Please just let me know that you made it. And, a few days went by and I was packing because we were going on vacation with Dad. And I had my suitcase sitting in the middle of my bed. And I walked around the corner to go to the bathroom. And I heard something fall. I'm like, man, that sounded like my suitcase falling off the bed. But how would it fall off the bed? It was in the middle of the bed. And I walk in there, sure shit, my clothes are everywhere. It is upside down.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I don't remember you telling me that.
Oh, and
but that was such a whirlwind of a time.
Yes, and I know for a fact that was Marcus.
Oh my gosh.
But then that night, I had a dream, and Marcus came to me, and all he said, I don't know if I could get through this. All he said was,
you can cry, it's okay.
Katie, I made it to heaven. And he hugged me, and that was it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. He was really funny though. He was a total trickster.
You know what I hate when people, like when it's been so long, and like back then, like this was 2011.
Yep.
When this happened, when somebody dies and we don't have like the technology like we do today, like I wish I had videos of him.
Oh, I know.
And I wish I had like more photos, but really I wish for the videos, like with the sound, like so I could hear his voice again.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard his voice, like heard it.
Yeah.
And I can't even, that's depressing really.
When Marcus, one of the way he shows himself a lot is through dragonflies. My aunt has a beautiful dragonfly tattooed on her shoulder.
So coming back to signs.
Coming back to signs. And after he passed, they were out on their pontoon and they were swarmed by hundreds of dragonflies just circling their boat.
Gosh.
And they had never seen anything like it. And after reading that book that we talked about in the first episode, that's frequently what people do who have passed, crossed, gone to the other side, is they can show themselves in different forms to be like, hey, I'm trying to show you I'm okay. This is a sign. So it ended up being determined that the dragonfly was the representation of Marcus. And while I was reading the book, it tells you how you can communicate with the other side and your loved ones who have crossed in different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I had told Marcus, I'm like, I haven't seen you in a while. Please send me a sign. And like 2 days later, I'm sitting out on the lanai on my lunch and I'm reading my book. And there is the biggest dragonfly I have ever seen. And it was the most beautiful blue. Like it was his blue.
Oh my gosh.
And it would not leave the backyard. It was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and running into the screen by me. And I was like, thank you. I see you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about some sad stuff. Let's go back to
the spooky.
Yeah, let's go back to the spooky because this next story that you have, this one's crazy.
Yeah.
The marking one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In that, where was that house? So set the stage a little bit here. So were you in college?
Yes.
Yeah. And you were with a boyfriend at the time.
Yes.
And you were living in some guy's house and he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're an asshole. The guy whose house this was. If you ever watch this, you are not a nice person.
Well, they all rented the house together. So my boyfriend at the time, he had 2 roommates.
Okay.
And my boyfriend's room, they all basically like drew straws or rolled the dice on who got the bedrooms downstairs and who got this bigger living area upstairs. And it just so happened that my boyfriend was the one who got the bigger space room upstairs. I don't remember what they did to determine it, but anyhow, he had the big living quarters upstairs. And within those living quarters, there were all of these storage cabinets kind of built into the wall. Like you would slide the door open and there'd be shelves. Well, there was one spot where you open the door and it went to this creepy crawl space.
Oh.
Like it was a crawl space that didn't have a big opening, but if you went in there, it was just like concrete brick wall and this sketchy, weird stuff in there.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. We just won't open that again or look in there again.
Let's not go in there.
Anyhow, when my boyfriend and I would be home alone, we would start to hear noises and hear different things. And one day we're home alone and we're up in his room and we hear this loud bang. And so we go running downstairs trying to figure out what the heck it was because it was a loud bang followed by a bunch of stuff falling. So we're looking all around. We can't find what the heck it was. Well, we open the closet and the shelf that was in the closet just was pulled out and fell. And all the stuff on top of it fell.
Oh.
And we looked at how the shelf was secured in there. And there wasn't very much up there. It was just some shoes. So it sounded like bang, 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 bang when it came down.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way this thing would have fallen or come out or anything like that. It just
fell randomly like magic.
Yeah, and it was secure. So we're like, whatever. So we pick it up. Well, we start to notice more noises when it's just us there and, seeing some shadows. Well, then one day I'm to do the laundry, you had to go in the basement, which was not finished. And typically in the basement, we would party, hang out. They had like a futon down there, beer pong, all that stuff. So we would typically party down there. Well, this was during the day, so I was doing laundry. And I put my load in, and I had just switched one over to the dryer. And right in my ear, a voice goes, "Hey."
Fuck that.
Oh,
no.
I was like,
no.
I yelled my boyfriend's name, and I went running up the stairs. And there are these old wooden steps. I'm like, running up the steps. And I told him what happened, and he went down there to look, just to make sure.
Make sure nobody was in there.
Yeah. So he went down there, and nobody was down there. So about another week goes by, and I would stay over there a lot. I would stay the night there a lot.
Had you convinced yourself you were crazy? Or were you pretty convinced you knew that there was a spirit in the house at this point?
I knew that there was a spirit in the house.
Okay, just checking.
And you could just sense it wasn't a good one.
No, and I remember you telling us how that it was something negative because whenever you guys were in that house, it was like everybody was so grumpy and so crabby.
Yes.
And the guy the main friend of your boyfriend, who was not the nice person, he was really conniving. And so
he gathered a group of my boyfriend at the time's friends who I was close with. We all had so much fun together. He plotted to have them all help him make me so miserable that I broke up with my boyfriend.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was so toxic. You were living there.
It was so bad. And nothing had ever happened to prompt or cause or...
No, they just didn't like you being with him.
No.
Oh, that's terrible. So to set the scene here was that it was a really negative living experience. And I kind of wonder if the spirit in the house was affecting that, honestly.
Oh, I think so.
Okay, so go on, because this part of the story.
So one day I woke up and my side was hurting, above my butt, but kind of on the side of my hip. And I got out of the shower and I looked in the mirror and I had these 3 long scratches down my body. And they weren't scratches that, like, if I took my nails and I put them on Lauren's back and I dug them in and I scraped down, it didn't look like that. These lines were so thin and so long, it looked like if a cat had scratched you, but it was more separated. Like
I remember that.
Yeah.
And they didn't start at the same time and go all the way down either. It was like the cat would have had to go 1, 2, 3.
Then 3. Yeah. And then also on the side of my hip, I had bruising like someone had squeezed my hip.
Do you remember waking up in the middle of the night at all?
No.
And that, oh my gosh.
No. And we tried to play through all the scenarios. Like, okay, well, maybe this happened. Maybe that happened. Maybe this, maybe that. We couldn't come up with anything logical as to where it was and why it would be there.
I remember getting those pictures in a group chat of you like,
Yes.
This is actually, you didn't even send it to me. You didn't even tell me. Mom told me.
Yeah.
You know, go mom. Like, you know,
Yes.
Mom told me what was going on. I'm like, she needs to get out of that house.
Yes. So my mom reached out to some paranormal investigators in that state. And they were really good company. They had great reviews, different things. And my mom was like, hey, this is what my daughter has been experiencing. These are just a few things. Can you please take a look at these photos and the photos of this house and tell me what you think? They called my mom right after looking at everything. And they were like, you cannot let your daughter go back to that house.
Oh my, why?
Because, did you get that static?
Yeah, now we're here recording this podcast and there's static on the mics.
Ooh.
Hold on, I think it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That was weird. We'll just keep that in there.
Okay. So
This happens there's always something weird whenever I want to talk about ghost stuff that happens.
they're like, hey, we're right here. So anyhow, they told my mom, do not let your daughter go back in that home. That spirit is evil and it wants her. Turns out they did further digging on the house after they looked at pictures. Someone had unalived themselves in the basement.
Oh my gosh.
From the rafters.
I do not remember that part
Yes.
of the story.
Yes. And so I never went back to that house. And my boyfriend, prior to the people looking at those pictures, because I waited a little bit to show mom, you know?
Yeah. You didn't want to tell mom. Right
Yeah.
away.
Well, then my boyfriend at the time, he started getting weird marks too. And by that time, I'm like, okay, I have marks, he has marks. It's something. And then I told mom, and then she's like, you're not going back there. So
I definitely believe that there is good in this world, and I definitely believe that there is evil
yes.
things like that.
Yes. So, and since that one was bad, I feared that one, and it feeds off of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And there was more stuff that happened there, but that's the stuff that really sticks out to me that I can remember. But there's definitely good and there's definitely evil.
Mm-hmm. I think you have a spirit that's following you.
Maybe. I don't know who it would be.
I don't know either.
With spirits, when all of that stuff was happening at my first home I had, I talked to a psychic medium, the one that we know from our hometown.
Yep.
She's amazing. I talked with her and I explained some of the experiences I was dealing with at the house with Jack and that stuff. And she said, well, when your inner light is really bright, spirits are like, hey, can you see me? So then they do all this stuff to be like, do you see me yet?
Yeah.
Because they can recognize an inner light and they want to know you see them.
Yeah. So I told you, I went and saw the medium who lives in our town that you did. And I actually, when I went to see her, I was really skeptical as fuck. I was.
I wasn't.
Okay, well, I was, because I'm a skeptical person. I'm skeptical usually until maybe something happens to me, or even if somebody tells me a story, I have to like be here to like hear it, and like I can like feel I don't know how to describe it, but anyways, I went to go see her because I had ghosts that were following me home from the funeral home. And I mean, like, would see the dark shapes out of the corner of my eye, and then I saw somebody standing in my garden that wasn't actually there when I.
Oh, I don't remember the garden one.
I had we had a kitchen sink and a window above the kitchen sink, and that's when I got really scared because it looked like the man that I had on the table back at the funeral home. And I looked down, he was there, I saw him, I looked down, I looked back up, and he was gone.
No thanks.
And and then I also woke up. I had been sleeping, woke up, and somebody was standing in my doorway.
Oh, no thanks.
And the house that we lived in, somebody did die in it, and I also picked up, the guy that died from that house, and then we bought the house. But
wait, you're talking about the one you guys fixed up?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the first one.
Well, I'm kind of talking about both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you mean the first house we bought when we moved there, not the lake one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not that one. I don't know if somebody died in that one.
So what house were you in when you woke up and it was over you?
On the lake.
Oh, wow.
In the house. So we had bought a house that somebody had died in, and we would sleep in the room that he had died in. And I woke up multiple times with something standing over me or above me. And so I went to this psychic medium because I knew that I needed help because I had things following me home from the funeral home, and it scared me. Actually, it really scared me because I didn't know how to deal with it. So I walked in not expecting anything from the psychic medium, and she was actually amazing.
Yes.
I sat down, I'm crying within the first 10 minutes, and she goes, I swear it's the room. She goes, I swear it's the room. But what she ended up telling me was that if you feel like you are being followed by a spirit or some sort of energy, so I'm supposed to stand at the funeral home in the garage before I go home and put out to the universe and out to the spirits that they are supposed to stay at the funeral home and they are not allowed to follow me back home.
You're not coming home with me tonight.
You are not coming home with me tonight, Fred. You must stay here. And I would do that toward the end of the day, right before I'm about to go, every single time.
And it helped.
And it did help.
Good.
It did help. And I started really being, what she ended up telling me was that I have a motherly aura. And what I didn't tell her at the time was that I was pregnant.
Oh, you were?
I didn't tell her that.
I didn't realize that because we had talked after you saw her.
Yeah,
and
I did not.
She says it's like I'm kind of like a nun, but...
Oh, yeah, she does past life regressions too.
Oh, if you haven't done one, they are so
They are
cool.
really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So she had said that I had a very motherly aura, and I didn't tell her I was pregnant. And she pulled that out because it was still early.
So did you tell her?
No.
She knew. She just she was like, maybe she doesn't know yet.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. And she said when you have that such a motherly aura, they're drawn to you because you have that. And I'm like, well, maybe I've just had that my whole life.
Well, yeah, because Mom said that ever since you were young, you could see things that were not there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that too. And we also grew up in the funeral home house, and there was a lot of things going on in that house. So I guess we can just say literally spirits have followed us our entire lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what one would be following me.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
You can keep it though.
What if it wants to stay here?
I don't want it here.
You better tell it to leave before I leave.
You are not welcome. Please leave my home. If you leave that spirit here, I'm coming to your house.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
You're not allowed to stay here. So we only have 5 minutes left. So for the last, we'll probably go over 5 minutes, but we're going to do some Q&As that you guys have left me.
Okay. Do you make people pretty even if they are getting cremated with no funeral?
That depends on if the family wants to come in and view them before. So making them pretty can mean quite a few different things. So even if we're going to cremate somebody, a good funeral director should still close the mouth, because everybody's mouth hangs open when we die. I don't know who needs to hear that tonight, but they do. I mean, everything relaxes.
Right.
So we can close the mouth. We call it setting the features is what it is. We close the mouth, and then we have little pieces that we can put in the eyes, little eye caps, and that helps your eyes stay closed because nobody wants to come say goodbye to their loved one and have their eyes peeping open. We call those peepers. We don't want peepers.
Yeah, or sinking in.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want sinking in eyes either. So a good funeral director should do that. And so that the family can have a nice goodbye, not a traumatic one. And we typically don't do makeup unless they are embalmed, because embalming will make your skin more firm, which makes it easier to put makeup on you. Because people don't know that putting makeup on deceased people is actually quite hard if they're not embalmed.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of squishy.
What if the family requested, hey, we want her to have makeup on? Would you just try your best?
Yep, I would do my
without
best.
embalming?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would do my best. I did my best.
Yeah. I did my fucking best. Okay. Are you ready for the next one?
Yeah.
All right. Do you really keep the gold fillings from teeth?
Oh my goodness. Okay. You would not believe the families that come in and they say, I was told that grandma always wanted me to have her 7 beautiful gold teeth. Can you pull those out for me out of her mouth? And every time, I'm telling you, this happens so often. I would look the family dead in the eye and I would say, can you picture me in the back with the pliers ripping on grandma's mouth to get those teeth out of there? And they're like, so taken aback that I asked them that. But I'm like, seriously, because that's what's about to happen.
But I really need some new jewelry.
And you know, the thing about the teeth, so I called the dentist and I asked him about it because I was really curious. He's in town and he said that the gold that they use, I mean, we're also putting it on teeth and you have to think about what we're doing with our teeth. I mean, quite a few things. It's not that great a quality. So it's not top tier gold that you're going to get tons of money for.
Right. Especially after chewing and how strong our teeth are and all of that, you know.
Yep. So the dentist to come out to pull teeth, because I don't pull teeth. I'm not doing that. And a lot of funeral directors won't, because it could be considered desecration of a corpse and we're not going there.
Yeah, no.
So you can hire a dentist, but they will charge you. The one told me it'd be $50 to come out per tooth.
Oh, wow.
And then he said that's if they were a patient. And if they weren't a patient, then it was $100. And he goes, and they're only going to get like $75 a tooth. He's like, tops, maybe 75. So really it's not, it's like 50 to 75 depending on the gold. I think he said, don't quote me on that. That's just what I think he told me. And I don't even, that could be old information now. I don't know.
It's probably more now with inflation.
It could. Now, don't go telling people that. They're going to be wanting grandma's teeth now. Maybe make a necklace out of it.
Yeah. Grab a shovel, Timmy. We're going to the grave.
Now, this is going to sound really scammy, but okay, maybe not scammy, but there is a company out there and they have this like little plastic cup and they tell funeral homes that after you cremate somebody, if you find a gold tooth, like I got a golden ticket. You're supposed to put it in this cup. And when you fill it up with all of gold teeth that have been cremated, so they've literally been through the cremator, they will give you, I think it was a couple $1,000s to fill this little jug up with teeth.
Just some company.
Some company. I don't even know. I wouldn't name drop them. I'm like, as I'm talking about them right now anyways. But yeah.
That's okay. Everyone's already on Google right now trying to find it.
Yeah. And so there was like some trade shows like this company and we never filled the jug. Just thought I'd let everybody know that in case they wanted to know. But
was it common that you would find them?
Occasionally, but they looked like crap. I mean, they didn't look good and it was hard to find them.
Yeah.
So I usually didn't take the time to do that.
So it was only if you filled it all the way up.
It was only if you filled it all the way up. Mm-hmm.
Well, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But we are officially out of time for our second podcast episode. So I just want to thank you so much for tuning in and tune in next week. And we will definitely be having some more Q&A. So if you want to leave your questions down below and then let us know what you want to see from us next week. And also I want to fly in a guest to be on my podcast. So please leave some name recommendations down below. I also really want to have maybe some moms on here who have dedicated their platforms to grief, maybe after losing a child. I would like to bring more awareness to their platforms. So if you know of a mom that is really wanting to spread awareness and is willing to talk to me, I would love to talk to them. So please drop your name suggestions below. Thank you again for tuning in with me and helping to normalize death. See you next time.